On this episode, we'll look back at some of the best insights from the Healthy Church Summit, all about planning a memorable Christmas service. Well, hey there, and welcome to another episode of the Church Leadership Lab podcast, the show that is dedicated to inspiring leaders and empowering healthy churches. I'm Kendall Connor, and I'm joined by my co-host, Jessica Moore. How are you today, Jess?
I'm good, Kendall. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. I'm excited to jump into this episode today.
Me too. Let's talk about it.
Super practical episode because we're going to be looking back at an event that just happened that I'm going to be honest with you. I said this in the last episode. I can't believe that it's over. That is our Healthy Church Summit that just wrapped up. It was awesome, wasn't it?
Yeah, and so much work goes into it. I think, Kendall, you were like literally still just checking out registration numbers. You said the
Yes.
other day, yeah, it's hard to believe it's over. We're on the other side of it.
We're on the other side of it. So many people got to be a part of it. This is an event, if you're listening to this today and you have not been a part of that event before, it is an online event that we put on twice a year here at Ministry Brands, and it's all about just pouring into churches to help you lead these healthy ministries right there in your city. And we get to talk through new technology. We get to share some thought leadership and just things to encourage you and equip you. And we had the event. It was online, but the beautiful thing about it is, even though we're on the other side of this event, we have the on demand that is available. And so
Right.
anyone who's listening to this, if you're saying, "Oh no, I missed out," we can go back. You have the ability to go back and view everything so that you don't miss out on anything, which kind of makes it nice, right, Jess?
Yeah, it's awesome. And you know what? I just thought about it's time to start planning the next one, Kendall.
Believe me, my head is, I'm like already there. I'm already there. I'm like marking off dates on the calendar and everything. So this past one was Healthy Church Summit number 6, which is
Mhm.
kind of hard to
Yep.
believe. And it was so
Yep.
powerful. I feel like I learned so much. And we had great music, which was just really special. And
Yeah.
everything about this event was about planning for end of the year. It
Mhm.
was about fall, Thanksgiving, and really what I would say a big focus was Christmas, right? Which I
Yeah.
love talking about. I love talking about Christmas and planning for it and that kind of thing. It's always a meaningful moment for churches. And
Yeah.
so it was really fun that we got to talk through that. I want to go ahead and just say, I don't think I mentioned the link. If you are listening to this and you're like, I want to go check it out right now, if you missed it and want to watch the on demand, go to healthychurchsummit.com and
That's right.
you can just use the link that's in the show notes. Go and you can find the recording there, not only for our main session, but also for all the breakouts, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think, we've done these, like you said, this was our 6th one. I think this one was probably the most practical because it was
Mm,
really honed in on a specific time of the year, right? So,
yes.
they're all practical, right? Everything that we want to bring to the summit, just like you said, empowers church leaders to lead well.
Yes.
But this one was leading well in a really busy season. And,
Hmm.
that's we're going to talk about a part
For
of that
sure.
today, one of the most impactful conversations that was had. But I think this one was, if you've never engaged with a summit before, this is the one. This is the one you want to go back and take a look at for sure.
Absolutely. One of my favorite things that we got to do was to hear from really some great speakers. Not only are they great, but
Hmm.
super knowledgeable and well respected. I mean, they're renowned in what they do. We got to hear from Mark McDonald, which go
Hmm.
check out the last episode. We broke down some of the key insights that we took from that. And then on today's episode, we're going to get to go and focus on some of the things that we learned from Ben Stapley's talk. Now, Ben has been on the podcast before. I went and pulled the numbers just so that you could easily get to these. He was actually episode 100, which is kind of special all in itself that he was episode 100.
That is
He,
cool.
yeah, it was all about leading and participating in meaningful meetings, which is kind of, we'll talk a little bit about that
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
But then he was all the way back on episode 31 as well, talking about how to cultivate creativity in your
Mm,
church, which,
it's good.
yeah, pretty cool.
Also applicable.
I'm telling you, yeah, it is. It really is. And, he's just is full of so much knowledge, so much wisdom on this subject. And if you haven't connected with Ben before, he's a conference speaker, he's an executive pastor, and a church consultant. He's been doing this for 20 years. He's
Mm.
helped the churches to create and kind of capture these memorable moments for ministries and nonprofits. It's very special.
Yeah, he has such a heart, a pastoral heart, you can tell too. I mean,
Mhm.
he brings that experience to everything that he, kind of counsels on or advises on.
Mhm.
You can tell
Yes.
it's coming from a place of personal experience.
Absolutely. Well, and so at the summit, he shared a talk with us that was all about how to plan a memorable church service, or memorable Christmas church service, a
Right,
worship
right.
service from start to finish. And today what we're going to be able to do is we will not be able to cover everything because you're definitely going to want to go back and watch the on-demand version of our main session so that you can catch his full talk. But you're going to kind of get the Kindle and Jess color commentary to go along with
That's
it.
right.
We're going to kind of share some of the things that we learned
Mhm.
from this and expand on them a little bit. And so I'm excited to jump into our conversation today.
Yeah, this is your preview. You should
This
go
is like
watch
a
the whole
preview.
thing,
What
but
did you
this
say?
is your
What
preview. I
what did you
called it
say
an
on the last?
appetizer. It was kinda weird. I don't know why I said that.
I just had to call that back from the last episode that yeah, it's like an appetizer before you can get the whole thing in the main session
Yeah,
on demand. But we're
preview
gonna
is probably better.
preview is probably better.
Yeah.
All right, so whether your church is large or small, traditional or modern, I'm telling you, you can create a memorable Christmas worship service, and we're gonna talk through some of the ways that you can do that. Ben gave such a great talk on it. And again, go check out the full talk. But I'm excited to break down some of the things that I took from this. Before we jump in, I'd like to encourage all of you listeners at home to hit that follow button wherever you're enjoying our show. We want to make sure that you stay in the loop to everything that we release because we just have these conversations, we have resources, all these things that we're continually sharing. That's the best way to make sure that you don't miss a thing. All
Yes.
right. I'm excited. Tip number one that I got from this talk from Ben Stapley was as you're planning, if you want to plan that memorable Christmas worship service from start to finish, first thing, tip number one is to plan, promote, and pray. Kind of like the three
Mhm.
P's
Yep.
of getting ready for this church service, this Christmas service.
Mhm.
But I love that he said, don't forget that last P, pray. Put a lot
Mm.
of emphasis on that. I've got this quote from him that says, if you only remember one thing, you're going to want to plan, promote, but don't skip out on praying. Pray, pray, pray over your Christmas season at your church. That really stood out to me. I love that he started with this, right?
Mhm.
Right out
Yeah.
of the gate, he was like, "Don't get too caught up in the details that you
Right.
forget what this is all about," right?
Right. I mean, there is so much to plan for. So that's being a good leader, right? Jumping in with 2 feet and saying, "Okay, what are we
Yes.
trying to accomplish? What are we communicating with this?" Right? Kind of what we talked about yesterday. We can tie these 2 together. But just going right into logistics, that is the temptation and that's not wrong, right? But remembering
Yes.
why you're doing this and understanding that, you know, prayer is the most powerful thing you could do really truly to make an impact. And so don't forget it. I love also, like you said, this is the first thing he led with, and it was kind of like a mic drop. Like, really, that's it. That's all you need. But there's
Yes.
more. But really, this is the biggest takeaway.
So he said, many leaders, they focus on the logistics, and that's
Mhm.
that's fine, that's fair, right? Like, as leaders, that's what we're called to do, but
Right.
we can't neglect the spiritual side. And if we're a as a ministry leader, you don't want to get caught up in being so focused on the logistics that you do forget that spiritual side. And you don't want to over spiritualize this. And obviously the planning and the prep and all of that stuff is important.
Hmm.
However, you want to be intentional to include all your teams, your volunteers, your staff in prayerful moments. And really just,
Right.
I'll take it even a step further. Encourage your congregation to be praying for your upcoming big
Mm.
moments
Yep.
that you're going to be inviting the community to, that you're going to be inviting. People are going to be coming in that don't come, let's be realistic. They don't come any other time of the year to your church, but they'll make a time to come at Christmas time. Encourage your church to be praying for them because it can have these Christmas services can have a big impact for those guests. So the big thing that I'm taking from this is, of course, we want to make sure that we're taking time to plan, that we're taking time to promote. But
Hmm.
don't forget that most important P of those is that is to pray. Make time for that prayer and include people in it because it can make a
Yes.
big difference. Remind your leaders, remind your team, remind your staff, and remember yourself that spiritual fruit matters more than the production value, what you're going to get from that planning and
Ooh,
promotion.
Good word. That's yes. That
He
matters
was,
so much more.
yeah, he was stepping on my toes a little bit with this. I was like, man, this is some good stuff.
There's a lot of pressure to make it this, like, incredible performance and
Yes,
production, and,
yes,
some churches still do, like, a pageant,
hmm
like a
yep.
true Christmas story, and I love that, right? But definitely do not lose that spiritual piece as you're planning. That's
It's a
great.
good point. You said pageant, and I'm curious. Have you heard this word before in your church experience? Just cantata. Have you ever heard that phrase before?
I have. I feel like that is, like, very much like a well, I'm
I
not
haven't
gonna
heard.
call out any denomination, but that's more just like a it's not really a play, right? I think it's like a chorus thing or like a choir
I
thing.
remember. I can remember it from when I was a kid, but I haven't
Christmas
haven't heard that
cantata.
Christmas
Yes.
cantata. Yeah, that
I
was
haven't
that.
heard that in a while either.
Someone's gonna be listening to this, and they're gonna think, "We do that every year. What are you talking about?"
I know, I
Uh,
need to Google it. I think it's like a
need,
musical thing.
there you go. We need some Google research on this.
Yeah.
All right, Jess, do you want to take us through tip number 2?
Absolutely. Okay, this was actually my favorite part. I'm glad that I get to talk about this one. So, you're going to want to include the right team and choose the right creative spaces for planning. I thought this was
This is
absolutely
a good tip.
brilliant. He gave a very specific example of a place that you would not expect to be planning a Christmas service, but I was like, whoa, that sounds awesome. And you'll have to listen to the whole thing to know what we're talking
I
about.
I I like that. You're gonna set them up. You're like, "Okay, we're not gonna give you everything today. You've gotta go and
Right.
check out the actual talk."
Yes. No, it was
I
so
like
good.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
I
is
was like,
kind of
"That's
an
brilliant."
unexpected place for sure.
Yeah. I will say he also gave specific examples of people to invite and who you don't want there, how to phrase things. I'm only gonna call one out. You'll have to listen for the rest of them. But one of the call outs that he made is you want people that say yes and, right? So you don't want those people who are like dream shatterers. So you're like, we don't have the
Mhm.
budget for that. Maybe be
Yes.
mindful of who that person is. We love them. We need them. We need that person on our team. But when you are planning and being creative, we need someone that says, like, yes, I love that. And let's figure out how to do it on a budget. Or however, you need
Correct.
the right people in there who will help build up that creativity and bring in the ideas, but also keep you grounded. So he named real specific team members that you're going to want present, and then where you're at matters so much. And I
Well,
mean,
I feel like it was a good reminder to me too. If I'm just being honest, I've been that person in the room. Now,
mm,
you would never expect this or think this of me, but I've been that naysayer before. I like that. I love to be creative and I love to be a dreamer and to think up big ideas.
yeah,
But in certain seasons, it's very tempting to get to that place where you're just like, well, we can't do that or no to
right,
that.
right,
That's also a good reminder to every leader out there is don't catch yourself being that naysayer that just,
yeah,
tears down every creative idea that comes up. But I challenge you to step out on faith, believe God for something big in
mm,
this season as you step into Christmas. And what would happen if you did believe for plussing up your event a little
right,
bit, to
right,
do something more than you've done before. And so yeah, so it was kind of stepping on my toes in more than one way. But it got me thinking. I was like, man, you definitely want to get the right people in the room. And,
mm-hmm,
again, going back to the previous episode where we had Ben Stapley on our podcast before, and he talks about in length about meetings, getting the
mm,
right people in the room. Not every meeting requires to have the full staff, the full
right,
team. And
yeah,
there you can get a couple of creatives in a room and just dream up ideas.
sure,
And in
yeah,
that time, it may not be the place where you figure out all of the how and all of the budget and all of those things. Sometimes there's just a place to
yeah,
dream up, what you could do. And so
that
get the
creative direction.
yeah, absolutely. And as you're planning for your Christmas services, get the right people in the room, whatever that looks like for your unique ministry context. And then
Mm-hmm.
I love that they gave tips, practical tips like
Yeah,
just get somewhere. I won't spoil it of what the example that he gave, but it is helpful to get out of the ordinary. So maybe you take your
right.
staff, you know, just to a coffee shop, just go somewhere
Mm-hmm.
outside of the fluorescent lights of the church
Yes, he
office,
did
right?
call out the fluorescent lights. He's like, don't put your creatives in a room with fluorescent lights."
Yes.
Which, man, is that the truth? I love that.
I love that, and, it just reminds me, you wanna bring some diversity in voices, bring some
Mhm.
diversity in perspective, get them in there, maybe you bring some different folks from different ages and stages and styles, but then changing that location, again, just it can help to spark fresh ideas,
Yeah.
and so
Oh, yeah. Love it.
I love that. Alright, tip number 3, that we pulled from this talk about how to plan a memorable Christmas service is all about play the carols and the classics. When it comes to music, create a familiar, festive atmosphere.
Mm.
And I love this because Ben shared in his talk that he served in a worship type leader role before, and he gave this funny quote, and I just really stood out to me. He said, "Whatever your worship team wants to do in terms of carols, just double it, because that's what your congregation wants." And it just made I was laughing out loud about this because I have that real experience with our church's worship team. They cannot stand to do the carols and do the Christmas songs. They're like, "Are we really gonna sing that again? Oh, do we really have to do that?" And they just dread December in a funny way. They
Yeah.
they talk about dreading it. But it's just funny, and I was like, "Yeah, he's totally right about this." Like, but the congregation absolutely loves them, and kind of
Yeah.
that those familiar songs, they bring an emotional connection. They
Mhm.
bring a
They
comfort.
really do. Yep.
Folks are coming to church again that maybe they haven't been there for a while, right? You haven't seen them
Right.
since Easter or last Christmas.
Exactly.
Those folks are coming in, and you know what they came for, right? Like
Mhm.
they came for a true Christmas experience, and I would
Yeah.
almost apply that to anything you're planning for this, whether it be the music or the message or the
Yeah.
decorations or whatever. Like, sometimes we feel like we have to rewrite what this whole thing is every year,
Yeah.
and that's just not what people are looking for, I don't think. I think they're looking for, what they think when it comes, what they imagine when it comes
Right.
Christmas time, right?
Yeah, let me add another just, like, drop for thought here regarding carols. One of my very favorite things about Christmas music is that so many of these songs are worship, right?
Mm,
And it's so fun and interesting when you pause and listen and remember the lyrics, because I feel like we're tempted to just sing it out of, like,
yes.
we know what it says, we're not really paying attention to the
Mhm.
lyrics, but I think about it because it's something that resonates with me every time.
Yes.
But hearing these, like, pop stars who, maybe have a relationship with the Lord, maybe don't, we don't know. But I'm like, these people are worshiping Jesus. But I will say that your heart does shift when you are with a body of believers, and
Hmm.
singing these Christmas worship
Oh, yeah.
songs is really
Oh,
what
yeah.
they are. And it allows you to kind of slow down and think through those lyrics. So I agree 100%. He mentioned a song that you play during the candlelight. It's totally the song that my church does every year, and you'll have to listen to the
Yes.
whole thing to find out what it is or to see if it's the one your church uses. But I mean, I was like, "Yes," and I wouldn't want any other song during the
Yes.
candlelight. That's
Yes.
the one I want, you know? I think it's important to just remember, like, those are worship songs, and it's important because it forces people to slow down and think through those lyrics and the true meaning
Yes.
of Christmas. I think it's bring on the carols. I think they're great.
Bring on the carols, bring on the hits, the ones that, come to mind when you think of Christmas. And I like what you said, Jess, about thinking about the lyrics because, I don't know about you, all the churches listening, but we put the words up to sing along right up there on the
Right.
screen. And it
Yes.
does kind of bring them to focus. You're like, oh, I didn't even know that song said that.
Sure. Yeah.
Um,
True. So true.
so, resist the urge to overcomplicate or think that, people just only want something that's new. Lean into
Mhm.
sing along friendly participatory songs that people can jump in on. And
Yes.
people they love tradition more than we think. Sometimes they have
Mhm.
that nostalgia, that memory, and
Especially at Christmas.
oh, yeah. And so I love that, and, you can mix in some new songs too along with it, right? It doesn't mean we just have to run the same play you could put a
Right.
little spin
Right.
on it,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it was a fun reminder, and I love that, we were able to talk about the music some.
Mhm.
Plus, we had a lot of great music as a part of the summit.
That's
Um,
true.
so
Yes.
if
So good.
you're planning your Christmas services for your church, going back and watching the on demand of that and just hearing some absolutely incredible Christmas songs is really going to help you to
Mhm.
put you in the Christmas spirit, I think.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. We ready for tip number 4?
Let's go for it.
Okay. So you're going to craft a message with clear next steps. Start with the end in mind.
This is good because, when you start thinking about, okay, you're like, okay, we're planning our Christmas service. We've got the music down. We know what we're going to do. We've got, we're going to do this carol or whatever. Now you're starting to think about what is our message going to be. And I
Mhm.
love, I'll share a quote that Ben shared in his talk, and it just said to start with the end in mind, lock in the next step, and then build your message backwards from there. I love that because, you know, when you're planning a message, sometimes we can get caught up, or we got to make sure, we got traditions. I got to make sure that we say this exact thing,
Right.
or, you can build big series and things about that. If
Mhm.
people aren't walking away from that Christmas experience that they were a part of, that worship service, being able to hear the gospel, being able to hear a clear presentation of, you know, why this really matters, what this
Yes.
season is all about, then
Yes.
really it's a miss, right? It doesn't matter how good
My
your
goodness, yes.
doesn't matter how great the environment looks. It doesn't matter how
Mhm.
great the music sound. That if they don't walk away with that main message of why we're doing all of this, then
Mhm.
it's a missed opportunity. And
Right.
so
Right.
I love that he said, okay, if you really want to get people, if you know that your main goal is to get them, to take a next step in their faith, or maybe it's to get plugged in, you're going to be doing baptisms at the beginning of the year, or whatever that
Mhm.
may be, what the next step is, for you guys, for your church. You've got to plan backwards from there, and then it's going to make so much more sense as you're
Right.
leading up to that, and you're sharing those each sermon point, and you're sharing your illustrations, and you're doing all of these things. Really,
Mhm.
you could build your entire worship service, backwards in that sense, right?
Yes. Yes. I mean, he really did hone in on the importance of salvation and providing an
Mhm.
opportunity. I mean, everything that you just
Yes.
said, yes. So think beyond just, the altar call at the end if you decide to do that. Think
Right.
beyond that. Like, what is the next spiritual step that
Yes.
so you're thinking about two things, like what is your next step at this church to become involved or to progress in your spiritual journey, but then
Yes.
what is the kind of climax of your service? Is it an altar call? Is it an opportunity to accept Christ? And if it's
Yes.
not, then you need to reconsider whatever that looks like at
Right.
your church, because you do have an audience that are there on a regular basis, but you do have those folks that only come once or
Correct.
twice a year. And so don't miss it. Don't miss that
Don't miss
opportunity.
out on your
And
moment. Yeah.
that's what you should have been praying for all along,
Mm.
right? So, like, since the beginning, our first tip, you're praying for people to encounter Jesus
That's right.
during this season, during this service. That's the whole
Correct.
goal. So, my goodness, if you don't give them an opportunity to do the thing you're praying about, you
Yes.
missed it?
Well, and I love that too, and you may say, well, okay, it's the salvation opportunity is a given. We're always going to present the gospel, and like that's fine. If we want to make sure that you don't miss out on that important moment, but also there may be other next steps that you want to get them involved on. The point is to define that single clear takeaway.
Right.
Don't overload too much, and then kind of build backwards from there. And you can even, if you really think about it, if you know that you're trying to get them to take whatever next step, you can even build in some follow up. So you're like,
Mhm.
okay, post Christmas, you're getting into New Year, maybe at the beginning of the year, some systems to help you follow up with people and say, hey, you attended our Christmas service.
Right.
We'd love to help you take a next step in whatever that goal was for you.
Yep.
So be intentional and just think like, don't miss your moment because you got caught up in so much stuff that you missed out on the clear next steps.
Right. Right. There's momentum that builds being at that
Mm,
service.
yes.
Emotional, spiritual momentum. You've got to have a path for
Yes.
that to go. Yeah, that's great.
Yes. We always, an easy one. I'll just tack this on before we get to our next step. An easy one is always our next step is we do a final worship service of the year, and it's
Mm,
like your
that's cool.
best next step, leaving here today is to come back. Next is to come back on this, whatever date, next Sunday. I forget how the calendar falls this particular
Yeah.
year, but
Yeah.
to come to this or to the first service of the year, whatever it may be,
Sure.
and so that they leave, with that. So let's go on. I want to move to our last tip, tip number 5, and I can take this one.
Mhm.
And it is to over communicate to first time guests. Make everyone feel at home. I feel like this is an important one. He actually started. This is one of the first tips that he shared in his talk, and he shared a great quote about just making people feel comfortable in your environment just by communicating. And he has
Mhm.
this great quote that he says, "Tell them what's about to happen, tell them as it happens, and then tell them what just happened." And
Mhm.
so basically what that means is as you're structuring your service and you're communicating, have a host, let them know exactly what's in store, what's going
Yes.
to happen today. Then in each moment, as you're about to start each segment, explain, say verbally, say out loud, this is
Mhm.
what we're about to do. And then
Right.
finally at the end, wrapping it up by saying, today we got to worship together. We got to go into the word together. And now here's what's going to happen next. Each stage of that, just going kind of above and beyond to being intentional to let people know what is going on. And I
Yeah.
feel like that helps people to feel at home. They know what's happening around them, right? Especially those new
Yeah.
guests.
I mean, this is what you do when you have guests over at your home. So, this just makes so much sense to me. I think if you can have a dedicated team that can think through those logistics,
Mm,
that's phenomenal. You probably already have one. You probably have some sort of like hospitality or host team at your
yes.
church. And so, going the extra mile, knowing that there's going to be an influx of visitors,
Yes.
how can you make this clear? And I think my brain goes logistically. Is it like a program that night where it's a paper program? Maybe
Yes.
that's not
Yep.
something that you have at a regular service, but for that night, knowing that guests may not know exactly what to anticipate, they can kind of look at that and say, okay, we're about to do XYZ. And he gave a really practical example, depending on what type of church you attend, if there's liturgies, if there's, I think it's important for people to be aware of those things. If you are a service that sits and
Yes.
stands often,
Yeah.
maybe, even include details as small as that. They will make a big difference with making someone not feel like they're standing out. That's uncomfortable. We don't like that.
Well, so a couple of ideas come to mind that even that we've done at different times in our church, and we will typically before Christmas or Easter, big events, we'll send out an email to our email list, letting them know what to expect at our Christmas gathering. So
Mm,
we'll explain we're going to sing together. We're going to have this element in the lobby. Get here early because we're going to have hot cocoa. We're going to
yes.
have extra. We're going to have a photo booth. Make plans to wear your Christmas sweater if that's what you're doing. Anything that they need to
Yeah, that's
know,
good. Hmm.
you're going to want to let them know far in advance. And we've talked about this before. The more that it requires, the more that it asks of someone, the earlier you need to communicate that. And so get that out in the email. We put that out on social media.
Yep.
Here's what to expect at our Christmas service.
Love it.
You can share all of that. And that just helps people to know what they're signing up for. And especially
Yeah.
you got somebody who's coming for the very first time. They, you know, they're terrified. Let's be honest,
Yeah.
right? They don't know what they're
Right.
walking into.
Right. Right.
What I love is you could even do something like if you're streaming, right? If you have your live stream, you can share last year's of an on-demand video
Ooh,
that they can
yeah.
go
Good idea.
check out last year's as you prepare your heart for what's ahead. Anything
Yes.
that you can do to paint a clear picture of what's coming, I feel like makes a huge, huge difference.
I love that, Kendall. And honestly, just a quick thought. That would be so easy to create once, repurpose everywhere, right? So
Oh yeah,
if you have jotted this down in an email, can you real quickly convert that into some sort of graphic to share
yes,
on social media? I think that would be something for me if I'm looking and, I'm not attending a church and somebody shares that I know and love and they're like,
yes,
this is what my church is doing. We're talking Christmas sweaters, we're talking hot cocoa. Like
yes,
if you've got the fun stuff on there, that is almost in itself a little promotion for, a
yes,
way that your members can invite guests by just sharing like, here's what to expect. Good.
yes.
I mean, hopefully all good. I was going to say good and bad, but it's going to be all good. So, come with me to church. This is what you can expect. I think it'd be an easy one to repurpose.
Yes, and I think that anything that you can communicate early is gonna be super
Right.
helpful, but,
Yeah.
there's some other small things that as people are experiencing it, having clear signage that it tells them
Mm,
exactly where to go, having announcements where you really take your time to explain things. Whenever I get up at our church to host, I always try to let them know, like, this is exactly what you can expect from today. We're
Right.
going to sing 2 more songs together. Then Pastor such and such is going to come to the stage.
Right.
We're going to continue in this series. Any of
Mhm.
those elements can just be helpful. And always have your team, have your volunteers that are available, whether that's an usher or a greeter or a help desk, whatever that may be, so that if someone does get lost, they can, approach
Yes.
them. Have your land. We have at our church. We have
I was gonna
lanyards.
say,
Maybe you've got a
yeah.
name tag. You got to do you. You
Right.
gotta go with what's going to work for your specific ministry. But whatever that is, make them easy to find.
Mhm.
And hey, I
Mhm.
tell our guest experience team this all the time. Just because, or even when you're not serving, if you see someone who looks lost, this is your house.
Yes.
This
I
is
love
your
that.
church home. If
I
you
love
see
that.
someone that looks lost, it doesn't matter if you're serving that day or not. Like, just take 2 seconds and say, "Hey, I don't recognize you. I'm Kendall. Is how long have you been coming?" Like,
Yeah.
and get that conversation going. Walk them through what they can expect, and just help out those folks that are figuring it out. Right?
Yep. I love that. I mean, there was so much that he covered, but I think those are kind of the major ones. Insider language was another interesting kind
Yep.
of tip that he gave, and, having been at the same church now for 8 years,
Yeah.
I don't pause and stop and think, like, "What does this mean?"
Yes. Right.
You know,
Curse of
I think
knowledge, right? Like, like, it's hard
exactly.
to
Right,
understand.
right. It's that, yeah, we've just been here. So pausing to think too that night, especially be extra thoughtful of, "Hey, is this just something that we use that just our church would recognize? How can we kind of rephrase that tonight so that everybody understands what we're talking about?"
That's really good, and you're gonna be doing some special things probably too, right? Anytime you explain why you're doing something, not only is it good for that first time or for that person that's showing up that's a guest,
Mhm.
it also
Mhm.
is a good reminder to your people who are there every single week of
Very
why
true.
we do this,
Yes.
and it could be a good thing. I love that he closed off by saying, think about your entire service from a first timer's perspective. If
Mhm.
you had never been here, what would be confusing to you? And it's not gonna a little extra clarity isn't gonna hurt anything, right?
Right, right. Well, and he actually took it a step further and was just like, "This person doesn't know Jesus yet." Right? So it's not even just a first-time guest, it's like, think even further into someone who maybe doesn't have churchy
Yes.
experience at all,
Oh, yeah.
right? So I think that even, and to your point, I mean, sometimes we that requires us to slow down and dumb things
Mhm.
down, which those, like, foundational pieces of the church and our faith are
Yes.
easy to forget, but still the most impactful. So I think it's a great opportunity to just revisit how we talk about things and just break it down in the way that anybody could understand, whether they've been a part of a church or not.
It's such a good point. You wanna make things accessible, you wanna put things, and explain things, go the extra mile to make sure that everyone understands whether it's their first time or their 100th time, right?
Mhm.
So
Yep.
good. These are all such great reminders. I feel like even if you were to take these 5 tips and apply it to planning a memorable Christmas service, I feel like they would make a big difference. But
Yes.
here's the amazing thing, is there's so much more great content. If you go to the Healthy Church Summit, watch it on demand and hear
Mhm.
this full talk from Ben Stable because he shared so much more. And we just can't, as much as we love to get on here and talk about it, it's just not quite the same as the original
Right.
thing that he gave. And so
Right.
don't miss out on that. It's a short enough talk that you could even play that at the beginning of a Christmas
Mhm.
planning meeting, right? As
Yeah.
you're sitting
Yep.
down with your
Great
staff or
idea.
your team, it's short enough that you could watch it and participate together. So,
Right.
um, this has been fun though to talk through it and just expand upon it a little bit. So, thank you, Jess, for taking time to talk with me today about
Yeah.
this.
That was great. That was great.
I feel like I gotta get, like, some hot cocoa or something. We brought up a sweater. I need to go get, like, a Christmas sweater after
I
this, you
know.
know?
It's not quite cool enough yet, Tulsa, but
No, it's
soon.
not, it's not.
I'm believing it's soon,
You
hopefully
gotta
this
just
weekend.
crank the AC up just a little extra,
Yes.
and, grab
Guess
some
what we're
hot
doing this
cocoa.
weekend, Kendall?
What's that?
Guess.
I don't you gotta tell
We're
Christmas
going
shopping?
camping. We're
Oh.
we're going
I was
camping.
like, she's starting on the
I
Christmas
know.
on early, going
I
camping.
know. We're going camping.
I love that you brought this up because, actually next week, that's what I'm gonna be doing as well. So I love that even on a Christmas episode that we got to bring that into
Yes.
the
Well,
conversation.
that's why I'm believing for cooler weather because we're going camping. So come on, Jesus. Anyway, yes, maybe Christmas
We're
shopping while we're camping. Knock out two birds, one stone.
you know,
We'll do it.
Amazon is there to help
Accessible
get it
anywhere.
done. That's
It's
right.
true.
This has been a lot of fun. Whether it's cool weather or not, it's good to go ahead and start planning. A matter of fact, it could be a goal to start planning for Christmas while the weather is still warm. That's a pretty good goal
Okay,
for a
but
church, I think.
Floridians,
That's true. That's true. Not everyone is
but
going to get that snowy
but
weather, but
September. If you're not planning by September, folks, you might
you got to get it
reconsider.
in.
Yeah,
All you have to
exactly.
do for it to count is planning. Is to go and to listen to this healthy
There
church
you go.
summit.
There you
So
go.
it counts. This has been fun today, Jess. Thank you for a great conversation. It's been good to reflect back on some of these things we learned. And again, to Ben Stapley, thank you for the amazing talk that you shared with us at the summit. It was just a great event. And listeners, be sure to go and check out the on-demand recording from the main session. It was a lot of fun. Look over to the show notes. We'll link everything up. You can find out more. To get to the summit, you can learn more there about Ben. And hey, if this message or if this episode has encouraged you, would you consider sharing it with a friend, even leaving us a
Mhm.
review? As much as we love talking about Christmas and camping, apparently, we love reading those reviews, and it just encourages us so much to keep going and lets us know what you want to hear more of. So leave a review for us. Share this with a friend in ministry. Until next time, keep leading well, and we'll see you next time on Church Leadership Lab.
This episode of the Church Leadership Lab podcast is brought to you by Ministry Brands, the largest provider of church technology software. Over 90,000 churches rely on Ministry Brands for their single platform solution that brings together all the digital tools a church needs. From online giving to websites to church management software and more, Ministry Brands is leading the way in simple to use, innovative solutions, all with the goal of empowering healthy churches. To learn more, visit ministrybrands.com.